G'day folks, welcome to the end of another day. It's the end of the 15th of June in this full campaign play of Atlantic War. And, some more movement for the Allies, but in an interesting position way out here. I'll get to that in a moment. First of all, the advance towards Cherbourg really stalled this turn. It's funny, I kind of jinxed myself. I said in the last video how easy it was to break through these first line defences. And then there's been no movement at all. The Germans now are in some, well, that's just blockage, but down here they're in entrenchments, which doubles their defence to 16, which is huge. And then there's this AT gun here. It's so small, but it's also in a town hex, which triples its armour. Yeah, difficult little positions here, and if you move in here, you've got to attack both, and it kind of puts this unit here in a difficult position because they're quite valuable armour. And all along the line here, just again, improved position, getting tighter defences here. Then further north, you've got the 82nd Airborne, and they're not really in a great position to launch an attack on Valence. The Germans have, this is the 243rd Division around here, in this area, and they're quite strong. They do have a little bit of artillery support, not a lot, but they've just been hesitant to attack. Maybe they should just do it, but I've been focusing my attention elsewhere, namely out here, and this is where the Allied advances have been for this turn. And you can see that kind of gap they've created around the swamp. I mean, they're not using the swamp. This is just incidentally here, actually more of a barrier than anything. But they kind of caught driving through these wooded terrain. I think I mentioned in the last video, just the subtle difference that the woods provide, the benefit they provide compared to the blockage for the attacker. The Germans can't use their blockage rule in wood, so the Germans have really been advancing and pushing hard. And they pick up this, once they cause a hit on the Germans in the line, they've been driving at that unit. So this was the full battalion. I think there was also another one that they've eliminated, and they've been driving against this unit, which has again since retreated back to here. But this has caused a kind of a gap in the line, and this really stretches the Germans out. So it's kind of a good thing that the 82nd and the 90th around here have been relatively quiet. They haven't been too quiet. They've actually launched some attacks on Saint-Sever-le-Vicomte, but failed twice, I think, throughout the day. You can see a step loss there. Other failures throughout the line, some disorganisation. There was a lot of demoralisation throughout the line, but this is, that's the point. As I said in the last video, the Americans only really need one good combat role anywhere in these attacks to create problems for the Germans. And again, the 101st Airborne, whilst they struggled a lot, they got one good combat role here, and they have now forced the Germans into clear terrain. And if you've been watching any of my other videos, you know what that means. This means that within 2 days, the 101st will be down at the beach over here. Their main problem, I think one of the main reasons the 101st has struggled, is relative lack of artillery support and lack of company support via either infantry companies or armoured companies' detachments that can give them armour superiority. So they never have armour superiority, and when they do have artillery, it's very small. And of course, they're relying on air support where possible, but it's relatively minimal. So that's one of the reasons why they've struggled out here. That, and of course, I pointed out their reduced combat strength. It's too lower than most of these other units, and lower than the Germans. As usual, the 29th, the 2nd, and the 1st have been pretty quiet, but you can see how messy the situation is out here, where several British divisions have been active. We've had out the flank, British and Commonwealth, I should point out, the Canadians, the 3rd Canadian Infantry Division pushing, that should be on there, pushing along this sort of flank. First has been quiet, but the Canadians have been pushing out here very gradually towards St. Lo, which is just off the bottom of that red dot there. It's a long way to go, and it's not really an objective. They've just been, again, threatening this German flank. We've now moved the 49th Division. They were hanging around. They've come to occupy this gap between the Canadians and the 1st Division as the Canadians are pushing to the south. Over here, we've got the 7th Armoured. They're only a relatively small unit, but they are driving with some force through this area, inflicting some damage on the 17th Panzer Grenadier Division. Then we've got, I think, the bulk of the fighting taking place around here with the 50th Division being very active throughout the turn. They have now, in that night turn actually, captured Caumont, which is an objective. This is a 50th Division reconnaissance battalion, a strong reconnaissance battalion in there. And look, a lot of adverse combat results, as I said. You can see disorder. These guys were demoralised, demoralisation through here, recovering still from all that. And so I've brought the 11th Armoured through here. They're going to help out the 50th Division. I will also point out, okay, so they do suffer the occasional step loss, but it's never anything significant. On the offensive, the Allies, as is so often the case, they pick and choose where to attack. The Germans rarely have opportunity to counterattack. If you look at the lines, there's nowhere they can really strike. And even if you were to draw some strong, sort of these 3 strong battalions into this hex, they'd get 33 plus artillery against 9. You've only got 3 to 1 in a town, which is just 1 hex, and then they sacrifice their line to do that. So this drive for the 50th has almost split the German line in 2. It's not of great consequence. It's not really what they were trying to do. This was our focus, Caumont, and also over here, Villers-Bocage. So this has been our focus, and this has been our focus. This is just where the successes are happening, driving where they can, basically. And yeah, this is incidentally where it was. It's been quiet around here with the 51st and the 3rd and the 6th Airborne. They are, of course, unsupported, but the Germans have been just gradually withdrawing. They do have Eversee. They still hold Eversee, but it could potentially fall with 1 strong attack from the 3rd Division out here. So at present, I believe, let's count them up. The Americans hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The Allies hold 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 objectives. And they are on the outskirts of 1. I wouldn't say they're on the outskirts of this yet. They could detect that they're 1 sort of move away from here. They're probably a whole day away at least from Villers-Bocage. But they, over in the Cotentin Peninsula, they are potentially 1 or 2 attacks away from, well, the lines they need to have to capture all of those areas, but several attacks. So they're potentially within 1 day of victory. Having said that, we're about to see some German reinforcements arrive. It's not a big stack, it's a couple of units, and the question will be where they arrive and what they do. So yeah, look, it's certainly, I think the writing is certainly on the wall for the Germans, but I'll play this out until we can secure that American victory, and then we'll review. All right, folks, so stay tuned, and we'll report back soon.